followers. As you've seen in this journey so far, we have met lots of people inspired by the Hindu culture and doing some amazing things all over the country. We've seen some beautiful temples and complexes. And I'm really fortunate today to be at the Oxford Centre for Hindu Studies here in Oxford, right in the heart of the university and the famous town, and with the founding director, Shaunaka Rishi. Now this is a centre which has been established for some time and is really promoting the academic study of Hinduism and plays an important role in giving us an academic identity in Britain and as a community. Mr. Rishi Das, can you please tell us a little bit more about the centre and the work it does?
Well, as you said, we're not a Hindu centre, but a centre for Hindu studies. So it's a centre for the academic study of Hinduism in all parts of the world and all periods, all types of Hinduism. And we have about 23 graduate students studying here at the moment, and about 50% of those will be practicing Hindus. And we have about 120 people studying Hinduism in other centres, adult education and online. So, and we have a journal with Oxford University Press, Hindu Studies Journal, and a book series with Routledge, and conferences, lectures, seminars, all of that, all the things, and research projects. So we're actually beginning to research what is Hinduism.
Wow, I mean, I gather that you are one of very few centres of its kind anywhere in the world, is that right?
We're the only centre of our kind in the world for the academic study of Hinduism, and being so multidisciplinary.
Wow, that's quite amazing, because this is a very old and ancient tradition and has got a very profound philosophy and rich history in terms of culture and the arts, etc. So it's very important that it has an academic place.
Well, it's essential, because actually if you don't have a place in the academy, it's nearly that you don't exist, that you're not civilized, that you're not available for comment. Because when people want to find an expert on something, they'll come to Oxford. And since we started the centre, we found all kinds of people coming, asking us for learned opinion about very diverse subjects. It's beyond our competence, but just because we have Oxford on our door. And it is important that Hindu culture realizes its need to act on this platform. Because without acting on this platform, we have to question the future of the community. I mean, who's defining what Hinduism means in Britain today? British Hinduism. Because it is detached from East African Hinduism or Indian Hinduism. It's developing its own life, but who's defining that? And by what norms are they defining it? How learned are these people? What do they know about Orthodox Hinduism or any other form? Or that there are different doxies, Orthodox or orthopraxies. It's very important that people begin to seriously consider what Hinduism is in their lives and what their sources are. So who tells them that this is Hinduism? Is this Vedic, Upanishadic, from the Mahabharata, from the Ramayana? What are these books anyway? Or is it just a collection of family rituals? Or are you just dragged along to the temple? Because young children today in Britain are well educated in a critical, analytical way, which means they're going to ask a lot of questions. And when they ask their grandparents and their masis questions that they can't answer, these children are kind of a little turned off, trying to figure out, well, what is my tradition? Well, it's not very significant because there isn't an answer to a simple question. That's not necessarily true. So when the community has built wonderful temples and community centres, I mean architectural masterpieces in some cases, what is the future of these institutions going to be in 100 years' time? We have to plan for that now. And I think the challenge facing the community now is education. What is its plan for education? And currently it doesn't really have one. And this centre is a manifestation of concerned citizens making something happen, because education, whatever infrastructural plan the community comes up with, it starts with teachers. You have to first
Yeah.
say who are the qualified teachers.
Well, there is a plan for education, which is to train their children as pharmacists or doctors or accountants. There isn't an understanding about the critical importance of a cultural identity and a cultural education to their future, and that there is a gap in. And I think this is where, the aim of the Masala tour, one of the real aims of the Masala tour is that the wisdom of India is so relevant to the pressing problems of Britain. If you think of health, for example, yoga and Ayurveda, or if you think of economics, you think of our business ethics tradition and integrity, etc. If you think of mental health, the whole meditation culture, and also the relationship between mind, body, and spirit, the kind of holistic approach. All these areas, we have fantastic solutions. We have people who live by many of these values in Britain and actually do amazing things as a result. But if we look at the country as a whole, if you look at the political debate, the media, the economic debate, we have absolutely no space. Family values are crumbling all around this country, and we have the oldest culture of strong family and community values. And yet we have no voice in that. So what you're saying in terms of the role of the Oxford Centre is actually that this can also become a platform for us to have an important voice in these areas and to be respected for that voice.
If anyone who has an Oxford degree has merit, that's kind of a given. They get jobs easily, etc. It guarantees you a certain level of critical analysis and the ability to come to your conclusions, etc. 28 prime ministers of the country come from Oxford. A lot of the cabinet are Oxford educated. A lot of the houses of parliament are Oxford educated. So this is the establishment. For the Hindu community to have its centre here is to be a voice in the establishment. And these learned voices, the students that come out of here, as they mature in their work, they'll become the people who will be on Newsnight. They will be asked for their opinion because they have an opinion. It's a sophisticated opinion. It's dealing with the issues of the day, but they're not giving up their principles. They're bringing their principles, their virtues, their values into the discussion. And this enhances the national debate. So it's bringing Hinduism into the public space at a very high level, so it can engage in proper discourse. And that's what this country needs to see. That's what the Christian churches and other faiths need to see. That's what the police force in this country need to see. The government on every level, local and national, they need to be engaging with people who have a sophisticated understanding and can offer the solutions you're talking about, but can offer them to British society in a way that's relevant to British society. So to make it suitable for their understanding. And that requires that these students have to understand not only Hinduism, but they have to understand Christian culture. They have to understand secular political culture as well. And they have to some extent formally study these things so that they can, they have to, in a sense, learn twice as much. And our students are doing that. And this is, our students are our best ambassadors. They're turning out to be fantastic scholars, and they will become these voices. And not only will they be these voices, but these will be the people who will interpret Hinduism to the community, so the community can begin to understand itself and define itself more fully in the public discourse in this country. Because if you want representation on Hinduism in this country, where are you going to go? Who represents Hinduism? You go to an ISKCON temple, a Swaminarayan temple, a Chinmaya Mission Center, a Vivekananda Center, a Shaivite temple. They're all representing their own tradition within Hinduism, because Hinduism is not one tradition. And the West doesn't understand that. So who represents Hinduism?
But in a way, you're also giving the community the opportunity to claim and own their tradition and its interpretation.
Absolutely. This is exactly, it's a very good point, because at the moment, if people want to understand about Hinduism on an academic level, they generally don't approach Hindus. They approach non-Hindu scholars. And their understanding of Hinduism still smacks of some of the colonial perspective. And that's not their fault. It's the fault, in my opinion, is that Hindus haven't begun to own their own subject. they own accountancy.
Yeah.
They own optometry.
Yeah.
They own hotels. You know, the Hindus own certain aspects of the society. They own the restaurants, but they don't own their own culture and the voice of their own culture, and they could.
So, how can the community help you with this amazing work that you're doing?
Send your children. Send your children. But encourage them. When one of your children decides that they would like to study history or anthropology or languages, etc., to do with their own culture, that's not a bad thing. Encourage that. Just because they don't want to be an optometrist or a medical doctor or an engineer doesn't mean they're going to starve on the streets. They actually encourage them to get these degrees. Interestingly as well is Sanskrit degree graduates get jobs in the city because they have an Oxford degree. It's not the subject. So send your children up, give them that good education, because with that education they can always make a contribution back to the community. The other way is the centre exists on public subscription. So actually, if the community, it's up to the community to make sure this centre exists. We are officially the poorest institution in Oxford. So we hold that with great pride, the renunciation of Hinduism, but that's not how we're going to be successful in the world. So, you know, some people may realize that this is an important project strategically for the community going forward. Then invest in this project, invest in this future, because this is the future of our temples.